Hello, boys and girls. Got another video for you fine folks on the internet. Another installment in the Matthew Buckley Talks music series. This time around, kind of a bonus episode, if you will. It's been several months since we've done one of these bonus episodes, but we're going for it today. We are looking at a 45 RPM release, continuing our kind of trend of looking at the surf and hot rod releases of the early 60s. We have here the 45 for 10 Little Indians, backed with County Fair by the Beach Boys, issued on Capitol Records in late 1962 on 45 RPM 7-inch vinyl in US, UK, Canadian, German, Swedish, Australian, and Denmark markets. Actually, it was given a reissue in 1979 for UK markets as part of their singles 63 to 70 series, which is interesting because technically it doesn't fall in that window, but the reissue has a picture sleeve that has a very sultry looking blonde beach babe on it, so that's fun. But a little SparkNotes bio. I won't bother going into depth about the Beach Boys because I've already discussed their background in other album reviews. But this single here was released as the third Beach Boys 45 RPM 7-inch single in November of 1962, the month after the Surf and Safari album on which both songs first appeared. So it was definitely strictly a promotional release. The A-side here, 10 Little Indians, was written by Brian Wilson with his outside collaborator Gary Usher, and the song is based on the children's rhyme of the same name. A fair amount of early Beach Boys songs are based in that sort of novelty, be it musical or overall theme. When you have stuff like Chug-a-Lug and Cuckoo Clock, it's very novelty subjects, simple novelty subjects. But this track was recorded in early August 1962 and features Brian on backing vocals and bass guitar, Carl Wilson on backing vocals and lead guitar, Dennis Wilson on backing vocals and drums, David Marks on backing vocals and additional guitar, and Mike Love on both backing vocals and lead vocals and saxophone. So we get some of the much coveted Mike Love saxophone bumps. Between Mike's sax features and hearing him sing "You're My Kemosabe," they're guilty pleasures I have with the song. This is not to speak of the casual ethnic and sexual slur towards indigenous North American women throughout the entire song. Squaw didn't like him at all. The track only clocks in at about a minute and a half, so all things considered, I find it a very interesting choice for a promotional 45 RPM release, especially as the A side of the single, which is the one they're really trying to push. It just strikes me as a little odd. The B side, County Fair, was another Brian Wilson and Gary Usher collaboration, and actually really has a lot going on. The composition and musical arrangement are honestly a step ahead of the rest of the material on the Surf and Safari album, in my opinion. The lyrical content is pretty hilarious as well. This borders on Jan and Dean level content here. Our singer narrates a trip to the beach with his girlfriend and the county fair, which culminates in some buff beach bully stealing his girlfriend. It's really silly stuff, but in my opinion, that's where this sort of content, the surf and hot rod music, succeeds best, when it's self-aware and even tongue-in-cheek and doesn't take itself too seriously. As the song fades out and our singer laments his loss, the listener can actually hear the voice of his now ex-girlfriend calling him a loser. It cracks me up. The record was recorded. The track was recorded in early September 1962, near the end of the sessions for the Surf and Safari album. We have Brian on bass guitar, organ, and vocals, Carl Wilson on guitar and vocals, Dennis Wilson on drums and vocals, David Marks on guitar, and Mike Love on lead vocals. Special guest producer Nick Vinay would be guesting as the Carnival Barker, and Andrea Carlo is the girl that starts out as our singer's girlfriend and becomes his ex by the end of the song. It's worth noting that this song would later be recycled into the Brian Wilson and Roger Christian song I Do, which was first released by American vocal group The Castells in March 1964. Versions recorded by the Beach Boys in 1963 would see archival release in more recent years. But yeah, it's definitely to me a much more interesting composition, and even as silly as it is, the whole concept is more fleshed out to me than the tried and true 10 Little Indians tale of 9 out of 10 little Indian boys can't get the love of the squaw, but the boy that the little Indian boy that acts like he's not interested in her, winds up being the one she falls in love with, because, that's how women are, am I right? Ha ha ha. But a little sip of tea here. Some more of that Meyer lemon stuff. Had the lemon ginger for a while, but it wasn't cutting it for me. Anyway, final thoughts. Both of these are, to me, interesting choices for promotional 45 RPM single release, both the A and the B side. Not to say there are a ton of other candidates on the album from which these were plucked that necessarily stand out as should have been promos, but one would almost expect a song with a higher profile, like maybe the more recognizable title of Summertime Blues, as admittedly by the numbers as the Beach Boys cover of that song may be. Or, either of the other songs co-written by Mike Love. With the previous 245 releases in consideration, that would leave either Chug-a-Lug or The Shift as candidates. So again, not exactly cornerstones of the album, but still, inside collaborations as far as composition. That's another reason that these two songs are somewhat surprising choices to me. Both of them, A and B side, are co-writes between Brian Wilson and Gary Usher. Gary Usher, history has shown, Brian's father Murray, who was much more in control of their direction at this time, he was not exactly fond of. So it just surprises me that both the A and B side of this 45 would have outside collaborator Gary Usher songwriting credits as opposed to Mike Love, Brian's primary collaborator inside the Beach Boys. In any case, the song was a moderate success for the early Beach Boys, peaking at number 49 on the U.S. Billboard singles charts, and interestingly enough, actually reaching number 6 on the Swedish singles chart. But after this, their next string of singles would be much more successful, as they'd have 3 top 10s in a row. So their star was definitely still rising. As you see here, I have this in a nice old school Capitol sleeve. It's got the old swirl Capitol label. Nothing too crazy to write home about, but it's in pretty decent shape. Yeah, all things considered, this is definitely far from my favorite Beach Boys single, but it's, a very nice snapshot of their early development, and again, interesting oddity for the fact that, they, I don't know if you want to phrase it as they were able to get away with 2 Gary Usher songs on a 45, or it just happened that way, but it is, a very interesting choice for promotional release. So, all things considered, I mean, it's, hard to really rate these 2 songs so too high, but I would probably, rate this 6 out of 10. So, nothing too mind-blowing, but, it's solid musicianship, and especially, honestly, like, I just have a soft spot in my heart for the B-side. It's goofy and quirky and funny and silly. So let me know in the comments down below. I'd assume you're at least vaguely familiar with the Beach Boys. Are you familiar with these songs in particular from their first album, Surfin' Safari? How many of you might have had this very 45 in your collection? And what do you think about, just this selection of tracks? Do you think there's any songs that should have been released as a second, third single from the album instead of these? Or do you think they made the right choice? I'm curious what the people think. So leave a comment down below. I appreciate any and all viewership. Keep tuning in, because I'll keep them coming at you. This has been Matthew Buckley Talks Music with 10 Little Indians, as PC as that isn't, and County Fair by the Beach Boys. Music is the best.